Frank and I are getting ready for our second European cycle tour, this time in France and Switzerland. We've chosen to fly to Nantes, near the west coast of France, for two reasons. One, we can fly there easily from Calgary with just one stop using Air Transat. And two, it's on the EuroVelo 6 route, which is one of the many cycle routes that make up a vast network across Europe. So on May 6th, with our bikes and luggage all boxed, our friend Tony takes us to the airport and we're on our way via Montreal. The next day in Nantes, everything has arrived safely and we set to work assembling our bikes and repacking our luggage in our panniers. And we set off to cycle across the city to our campground, which we have reserved ahead of time. The Greater Nantes area has a population of over 600,000. In the Middle Ages, and in fact up to the 19th century, Nantes was the most important port city in France, being a hub for trade to the rest of Europe as well as to the Americas, including the Caribbean. The city was heavily involved in slave trading. Nowadays no big ships come this far up the estuary along the Loire, docking instead at Saint-Nazaire at the mouth of the river. We enjoyed exploring the city. It was once the seat of the powerful Dukes of Brittany, and we visited their fortress, the Chateau des Ducs de Bretagne. A former shipbuilding and industrial area on an island in the centre of the city has now been revitalised, and it houses a huge museum filled with fantastic modern machines, including this mechanical walking elephant which carries passengers on a ride around the site. Nantes lies about 50 kilometres upstream from where the wide Loire estuary empties into the Atlantic, the Bay of Biscay to be precise. That's also where EuroVelo 6 officially begins, or ends, depending on your perspective. So after our day of sightseeing in Nantes on May the 9th, we set off towards the west and we reached the seaside town of Saint-Brevin-les-Pins, where we dipped a toe in the Atlantic and camped for the night. The next day we rode the 62 kilometres back to Nantes, in the rain and a headwind. Nevertheless, the countryside was very pleasant. The EuroVelo route was pretty well signed, although we did lose it a couple of times. We took a hotel in Nantes due to the rain. It's day 3 of cycling, and we're on a mission this morning to get to a decathlon store where we heard we could find the propane cartridges that we need for our little stove, and we were successful. We had a good day of cycling today. We did 62 kilometres in very pleasant conditions, mostly dry with a little shower, although cool at times. We found a nice country campground in the evening, which was just a perfect place to spend the night. Today is May 12th, and we have another great day following the banks of the Loire, sometimes on the south bank, sometimes on the north. The biggest surprise of the day was stumbling on the Lenin Cafe on an island near Chalon-sur-Loire. It contained a collection of Lennon personal effects, obviously collected by somebody who was a big fan. We rode 60 kilometers today and found a lovely camp spot by the river in the community of Bouchemain, right at the confluence of the River Main with the Loire, and not too far west of the city of Angers. The Chateau d'Angers houses one of the greatest medieval tapestries in Europe. It's called the Tapestry of the Apocalypse. It's 100 meters long and housed in a very dimly lit gallery to preserve its vegetable dyes. It shows some frightening and grotesque scenes. It was woven between 1373 and 1382 during the 100 Years' War in France, between France and England. Angers has a very attractive old town with half-timbered buildings and lovely cobblestone streets. The city is considered the western gateway to the Loire Valley. As we leave Angers, our route takes us across a canal.
Here we are, just outside of Angers, taking our little ferry.
We're now entering a very famous section of the Loire River, known for its many chateaux, and also as a UNESCO World Heritage Site since 2000.
This is the troglodyte village near Saumur. It's quite extensive, and blocks of tufa rock were chiseled out of here in years past for the purpose of building. And this is part of the EuroVelo 6 route along the Loire River.
The caves left by these tufa rock excavations have been used as dwellings in the past, and some of them still are in use. And apparently they're used for cultivating mushrooms. I've read that there's a mushroom industry in the region. We rode only 38 kilometers today, a very laid-back day, but we did end the day in a beautiful campground in the village of Montserrat, which is right next to a village called Tourcoing.
This is the lovely campground where we were last night in the village of Tourcoing on the banks of the Loire. This is all geared for cyclists on the Loire Velo route. We have bunk beds and a loft upstairs. All around are picnic tables. In the background there are washroom facilities that are immaculate and an area for cooking. And check this out. This is so cool. 4 fridges along here. Stairs up to more loft beds. And all this cost us €13 plus extra for Wi-Fi. Here are our bikes, and we had our tent here last night. We didn't use the bunks because it's still pretty chilly, and we thought we'd be warmer in our tent. It was only 9 degrees when we woke up this morning. And still in the same campground, that's the Loire River over there. There's our wooden velo area, and here we have some great dishwashing facilities, hot water. Here are the bathroom facilities, which are immaculate. There are showers, separate stalls just with sinks for washing. Everything's clean. And look at this. Why don't we have children's toilets like this in Canada? What a great idea. Lots of people here in nice camping vans and small RVs, and there were just 2 other people sharing our cycling area last night. We had a very comfortable night here. There's even a separate area for doing your laundry with also washer and dryer. So it's got everything here. Today the sun is shining, so as long as we keep getting good weather, we'll keep on camping.
Not all the campgrounds are quite as nice as this one. This one was rather special, so we were in no hurry to leave, but we finally got on the road by 11 o'clock. We got to visit our first chateau today. This one is said to have inspired the writer Charles Perrault to write the fairy tale The Sleeping Beauty. In spite of a steady headwind today, we managed to do a respectable 57 kilometers before we settled into another very pleasant campground for the evening. Today we're heading for the city of Tours, and we're going to visit a lady named Hélène, who we have not met before, but who is a good friend of our French friends Jacques and Angela. And Hélène kindly invited us for lunch at her apartment. We had a lovely visit and finally left Tours at 3 p.m. with our sights set on a campground past the Chateau de Chenonceau, which we cycled right by. Unfortunately, the campground was closed due to a road closure nearby, and so we found a lovely suitable spot in the woods to the east of Chenonceau and made camp there for the night.
This stuff is so good. Crier de la Boucherie.
Good morning. Brunch is almost ready. We have mushrooms with eggs and smoked salmon and bread. I think this is going to be a delicious omelette. So, after eating like kings, we're off to see the home of one. We're heading back to do a proper tour of the Chateau de Chenonceau. After our little detour to Chenonceau, we cycled on to the city of Amboise, and we found the campground there very centrally located on an island. Because there was rain in the forecast, we opted to get a tented cabin instead of using our tent, which was a little bit more comfortable, and we will spend 2 nights here, and it also allows us to lock our bicycles and gear inside while we tour the city. Leonardo da Vinci spent the last 3 years of his life here in Amboise, and we visited the stately home where he once lived.
are recreations based on Da Vinci's drawings. This is the Archimedes screw. Amboise Castle. I think the celebration is about 500 years since the death of Leonardo.
The rain has stopped this morning, and also we're finally riding without wind. We have a great ride all the way to the city of Blois. We didn't actually ride into the city, but we enjoyed our picnic lunch across the river from it, complete with wine, of course. Later in the afternoon, we got as far as Chambord and had a tour.
This is Chambord. It's absolutely massive.
We continued riding after that and clocked up a record 79 kilometers today and ended up in a small town called Mouide-sur-Loire. We had a hard time finding anywhere to eat, but we found a little pizza joint eventually. It's Monday and we're enjoying very pleasant pathways alternating on both sides of the river. In this little town, we learn that the church and attached castle have strong associations with Joan of Arc. Now entering the city of Orléans, we try in vain to find an open campground, so we end up staying in this nice hotel and enjoying a little bit of comfort for the night.
Coffee here. It's beautiful.
This city made a big impression on us. The central square, La Place du Martroi, has a bronze statue of Joan of Arc, who famously saved the city from English siege in 1429. More lovely pathways today, some following along on the tops of flood dikes. We passed through some nice villages including Jargeau and Châteauneuf-sur-Loire, and we end up making camp just on the outskirts of Sully-sur-Loire. In the campground, Frank spotted a Czech license plate, and we ended up meeting this couple, Roman and Blanca, who were a Czech couple who invited us to visit with them in their caravan. Nice fresh croissants and a baguette delivered to the campground this morning get us off to a good start today as we head off to visit the Chateau Sully-sur-Loire. You can't beat this flat scenic riding along the canals, it's so pretty. Later we did brace ourselves for a hill though to climb up to the town of Sancerre, very famous for its wines. The countryside here reminded us a little of Tuscany. Back down the hill to the canal and we have a lovely plat du jour lunch in this little village. Continuing on, I think our heavy lunch made us lazy and we didn't ride too far today, 46 kilometers, when we decided to make camp in this town of Charité.
Good morning, Frank.
Good morning. Well, morning, it's high noon right now.
Yeah. The aqueduct over the Loire. Six babies. Morning, Frank.
Good morning. Well, it's high noon, as you can hear.
Yeah.
Again.
Yeah. And we're in Burgundy in a little village called Charin.
Tonight we stayed in a nice little hotel in the town of Digoin, recommended to us by a couple of Australian cyclists we had met. Right after passing this chateau today, we celebrate reaching our 1,000 kilometre mark, and we celebrate with a beer in a campground and continue the celebrations tonight by staying in a nice hotel. Today EuroVelo 6 is taking us through some slightly hilly but pretty rural countryside, as far as the village of Fontenay, where we decide to stop and make camp. This is in the heart of the Burgundy wine region. From here we make a short side trip to visit the town of Beaune. We round out the evening with a lovely dining experience before taking an expensive taxi back home to camp.
Good morning. Here's our camp in the little town of Fontenay in southern Burgundy. Come with me through this cedar hedge. Look what's in here. This area is a very well-known wine area. It's the Côte d'Or. Couldn't tell you what domain this is, but it produces some pretty good stuff apparently.
This canal links up eventually with the river Doubs, upon which the city of Dole stands. Dole has a well-preserved historic centre with the Cathedral of Notre Dame at its heart. The city is the birthplace of scientist Louis Pasteur, and we visited his home in the tannery area along the canal. We had a bit of a wild goose chase this afternoon trying to find an open campground, but we eventually found this lovely spot, a municipal campground situated between two canals. After a gorgeous ride through the Doubs Valley today, we arrived in Besançon at around 2 o'clock and spent a full 24 hours in the city enjoying its history and ambience. The old city centre lies in a horseshoe bend in the Doubs River, and the nearby citadel, perched on a hill, has 3 museums, a zoo and 600-metre long ramparts, which are impressive, and a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It's the first day we've been able to really enjoy summery weather. By 4 in the afternoon, we're ready to continue our ride, and we do another 40 kilometers through more beautiful scenery along the Doubs, arriving in the little town of Baume-les-Dames, where we stocked up on food at the local Super U and made camp. EuroVelo 6 continues through beautiful scenery again today. We stop and have a really nice lunch, a plat du jour, in this little town called Pays de Clerval. We continue on and stop for refreshments later on in the city of Montbéliard in the marina. Summer really seems to have arrived. It reached 31 degrees today. And due to a lack of campgrounds in this area, we ended up doing a wild camp tonight. Today we're starting to see a lot of storks, and that's a sure sign that we've entered a new area, Alsace. The stork is the regional emblem here. I'm looking forward to seeing how the character of this area changes, as it's very much more German. Well, actually, it used to be part of Germany. Today we're going to give the bikes a rest and take the train north to visit two places that we've wanted to see, Colmar and Strasbourg. This town is famous as being the birthplace of the sculptor Bartholdi, who designed the Statue of Liberty. The town centre around the canals, called Little Venice, is very picturesque. Now we're going to hop back on the train again and head a little further north to the city of Strasbourg, located on the River Rhine. When you first spot this cathedral, it stops you in your tracks. It really commands your attention. It is truly awe-inspiring. It's a big day today. We're going to be crossing the border into Switzerland later on.
I don't know what he is, but he's grunting. And I think he's the baby, and Mom's over there.
We'd seen some of these creatures from a distance earlier on in the trip, and we weren't sure what they were.
He's having a wash.
They look a lot like beavers, but their tail is round, not flat. Anyway, we later found out that they're called nutria, or coipu.
This barge is huge. This is still the Rhine-au-Rhône or Rhône-au-Rhin Canal. This is a working barge, and it's huge.
I'm eagerly anticipating our first glimpse of the real River Rhine, but for now we're still following some of the canals. And here it is, the big wide River Rhine. Once we cross this bridge over the Rhine, we're actually in Germany for a very short time. And feeling the need to celebrate our feat of having crossed France, we find a place to have some beers.
This is Basel. We're taking a hydraulic ferry across the Rhine. It's pretty cool.
So, after a brief tour of this lovely city, and having successfully traversed France and clocked up 1,487 kilometers, we have secured ourselves and our bikes train tickets for Andermatt in the heart of the Alps. We're going to head there tomorrow for the next leg of our trip on EuroVelo 17. For now, we have a comfortable hotel for the night.